Hey everyone, welcome back. I'm here. So today we have another horror story from the month of fear. If you didn't know, throughout the month of October, I'll be publishing a new horror story every single day. One for each of the 31 days of the month. I've got some great ones planned. So if you're a fan of horror or just enjoying the spooky season, don't forget to stay tuned. And with that said, let's jump into today's story. The wind howled like a restless spirit as the small boat cut through the churning waves of the North Atlantic. The sky was a bruised shade of gray, heavy with clouds that threatened to unleash their fury at any moment. On the horizon, the silhouette of the lighthouse stood tall and unyielding, its whitewashed walls gleaming faintly against the stormy backdrop. This was Rock Lighthouse, a sentinel of stone and iron that had guarded the treacherous coastline for over a century. Its beacon, a rotating beam of light, pierced the gloom, casting a rhythmic glow over the turbulent sea. For generations, it had been a symbol of hope and safety for sailors navigating the perilous waters. But now, in the twilight of its existence, it was a relic of a bygone era, soon to be replaced by automated systems and modern technology. The boat's engine sputtered as it approached the rocky outcrop where the lighthouse stood. At the helm was Thomas Grayson, a man in his late 50s with a weathered face and hands calloused from years of labor. His salt and pepper beard was flecked with sea spray, and his eyes, though tired, held a quiet determination. Thomas was the last in a long line of lighthouse keepers, a profession that had been passed down through his family for generations. His father, grandfather, and great-grandfather had all tended to this very lighthouse, their lives intertwined with its history. But Thomas was different. He was the end of the line, the final chapter in a story that had spanned over 100 years. As the boat drew closer to the island, Thomas's gaze lingered on the lighthouse. It was more than just a structure to him. It was a living, breathing entity, a silent companion that had witnessed the joys and sorrows of his family. He could still remember the stories his father had told him tales of shipwrecks and rescues, of storms that had tested the limits of human endurance, and of the quiet moments of solitude that came with the job. Those stories had shaped him, instilling in him a deep sense of duty and respect for the sea. But they had also burdened him with the weight of tradition, a weight that grew heavier with each passing year. The boat finally reached the small dock, and Thomas secured it with practiced ease. He grabbed his duffel bag, which contained a week's worth of supplies, and stepped onto the rocky shore. The wind tugged at his coat as he made his way up the narrow path that led to the lighthouse. The island was barren, with only a few stunted trees and patches of grass clinging stubbornly to the rocky soil. It was a harsh and unforgiving place, but Thomas had always found a strange beauty in its ruggedness. To him, it was a sanctuary, a place where he could escape the noise and chaos of the modern world. As he approached the lighthouse, he noticed the signs of decay that had begun to creep in. The paint on the walls was peeling, and the iron railing that encircled the lantern room was rusted. The once pristine structure was showing its age, a reminder that even the strongest things eventually succumb to time. Thomas sighed as he unlocked the heavy wooden door and stepped inside. The interior was dimly lit, with shafts of light filtering through the dusty windows. The air was thick with the scent of salt and oil, a familiar combination that brought back a flood of memories. He set his bag down and began his routine, a series of tasks that had become second nature to him over the years. He checked the fuel levels for the generator, inspected the lenses of the lantern, and wound the clockwork mechanism that kept the light rotating. Each action was performed with meticulous care, a testament to his dedication and pride in his work. But as he worked, he couldn't shake the feeling of melancholy that hung over him like a shadow. He knew that his time here was limited, that soon the lighthouse would be decommissioned and left to the mercy of the elements. The thought filled him with a sense of loss, not just for the lighthouse, but for the way of life it represented. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Thomas climbed the spiral staircase to the lantern room. The view from the top was breathtaking, with the endless expanse of the ocean stretching out before him. The beam of light swept across the water, a silent guardian in the night. He stood there for a long time, watching the waves crash against the rocks below. In that moment, he felt a deep connection to the lighthouse, as if it were an extension of himself. He knew that his days here were numbered, but he also knew that he would carry its spirit with him wherever he went. The wind picked up, carrying with it the faint sound of a ship's horn in the distance. Thomas turned his gaze toward the sound, his eyes scanning the darkening horizon. Somewhere out there, a vessel was making its way through the storm, its crew relying on the light of the lighthouse to guide them safely to shore. It was a reminder of why he did what he did, why he had devoted his life to this solitary existence. The lighthouse was more than just a building. It was a beacon of hope, a lifeline for those at sea. As the night deepened, Thomas descended the stairs and made his way to the small living quarters adjacent to the lighthouse. The room was sparsely furnished, with a narrow bed, a wooden table, and a few shelves lined with books. He lit a kerosene lamp and sat down at the table, pulling out a worn journal from his bag. The pages were filled with his thoughts and observations, a chronicle of his life on the island. He opened it to a blank page and began to write, his pen moving slowly across the paper. Day 1, he wrote, The storm is coming. I can feel it in the air, a tension that hums like a live wire. The lighthouse stands firm, as it always has, but I can't help but wonder how much longer it will endure. They say progress is inevitable, but at what cost? What happens to the soul of a place when its purpose is stripped away? He paused, his hand hovering over the page. The question lingered in his mind, unanswered. Outside, the wind continued to howl, a mournful sound that seemed to echo his thoughts. He closed the journal and set it aside, his gaze drifting to the flickering flame of the lamp. In its light, he saw the faces of his ancestors, their eyes filled with the same quiet resolve that now burned within him. They had tended to the lighthouse with unwavering dedication, and so would he, until the very end. As he lay down on the narrow bed, the beam of light from the lantern room continued to sweep across the night sky, a silent sentinel in the storm. Somewhere out at sea, a ship's captain glanced toward the light, a small but vital reassurance in the vast darkness. And in that moment, Thomas Grayson, the last lighthouse keeper, knew that his work, though soon to be forgotten, had meaning. It was a legacy written in light, a testament to the enduring power of hope in the face of an ever-changing world. And on that note, I'll end today's story. So while you're waiting for the next story, don't forget to stay tuned and follow me on social media. Also, let me know what you think about today's story down in the comments below. I always enjoy hearing your thoughts. In the meantime, I've got a lot of editing to do. So until next time, stay safe, stay creative, and don't forget, horror is my favorite genre.